Well, my promo video that I did yesterday, the usual suspects, to prep us for today's more insightful, more deeper dive into the concept of using crisis actors and murderers and bankers, because they all go together. You can't really conduct any kind of a assassination of a political person or a strategic operative within the military unless you have bank support and you need a thumbs up from Geneva, Switzerland, or the authority, because it's be banking for the money and to pay, for transportation, lodging, food allowances. You need a bank to. Someone's got to pay bills, and to get the weapons and the ammo. you got to practice and rehearse before the hit, and then that's handled with a series of financial people. Then you had the military aspect, which is who, what, where, when, and who's going to provide the transportation to and from, so that you clean up, change your clothes, leave your weapons with a disposal person, and then disappear at an airport, and you're flown away to some other zip code. This is pretty standard. You fly people in weeks in advance so that they have time to reconnoiter and familiarize themselves with the killing box, the kill zone, and then they rehearse in a house that's a doppelganger twin or something pretty similar at the same time of day that the killing is to happen, or night. And they may have logistical support staff they'll be coordinating with earpieces that'll have infrared, telescopic, so that night is day. You'll have drone support, satellite support, and reconnaissance houses on the perimeter. So it's really just like shooting, fish in a barrel situation. So you're familiar with the Aaron Valente case. So that was the one that I featured last night first.
Absolutely. And while you were saying that, what came to mind, um, gladiators, and hence the name Gladio. The whole setup, we call them Gladio operations because of Operation Gladio, which was had a lot of different things, but generally the idea was to stir up tension and cover up murders that were being done kind of on this contract basis, and to control the whole what's the word, control the environment on different levels. And so that's how these are presented one way to the public with a narrative and a storyline, but that storyline serves to cover up what was actually going on behind the scenes by people who have perfected their respective trade, or gladiators by all
Yeah,
means.
Gladio began with the army left behind. In other words, there was some kind of a war or a conflict, and then it ended, and then the main forces were pulled out, leaving behind a clandestine, ununiformed civilian, looking like a civilian. But they are also military soldiers, but they don't wear uniforms. They wear civilian clothes. And so when we say that the enemy is withdrawing, like in Vietnam, we're going to withdraw, or that's not true. The NATO never withdraws, ever. There's never a withdrawal. There's the illusion of it, but they're going to leave behind secured hamlets. They're going to leave behind their maps of all their minefields. They have a
Assets.
mapping of where they lay their bombs, their undetonated munitions, and they're going to maintain that for years and years and years. They never leave. And guess what? They're going to select the mayor and your city council of your secured district. And if you don't like that, or if you have a kind of a disobedient mayor, then Gladio will kidnap him and murder him at night secretly when no one is aware of it, when everyone's sleeping. And then you wake up in the morning, he's hanging from a tree in your city park. So that's Gladio.
Mm-hmm.
They come into your neighborhood, but they're already in your neighborhood. They may bring in the killer. The killer may be brought in But the homes, the safe houses, the murder
Assets.
scenes, they exist now in everyone's neighborhood, everywhere. There's kill boxes.
Centers. The idea of a fusion center is you've probably seen, on documentaries or something, they show you these huge tech brain centers, and that's what a fusion center is. They plug in local law enforcement into basically the whole grid through these fusion centers. And so
It's just
I'll read the,
localized intel for your town.
yes,
It's
localization.
military intelligence at the edge of your town. Typically, they put them kind of on the edge of the city limit.
Well, remember, I said earlier they're able to localize this program to be run anywhere, and this is that localization process. I'll read here: local sheriff's departments and municipal police departments, whose organizational structures already mimic military operations, operate through dedicated fusion unit departments housed within their intelligence divisions. They're explicitly integrated into NATO, confirming their status not as civilian protectors, but as military extensions. Uh, Next one says Fusion mandates the seamless sharing of data, including driver's license and criminal records between the CIA, FBI, Mossad, MI6, MI5, KGB, amongst others. And it acts a few
And
different roles.
when we say that, I want people to understand when we talk about CIA or FBI, you do know that those agencies, which includes the police department, they subcontract to consulting firms that you may have never heard of
Mhm.
before. And so you're talking about corporate contractors are doing most of the heavy lifting on this. That law enforcement and CIA people, there's only a very few number of them involved. And the boots on the ground are going to be um, crisis actors or work for corporations to back up the police. They'll send the police in to knock on the doors, but there's a whole infrastructure behind the police that do not work for the police.
Mhm.
They
And you're
work
right.
for a private corporation.
That's important to mention. Absolutely. This whole idea of data repository, massive convergence of surveillance data is typically warehoused underground in installations like the NATO Military Intelligence Data Center located in Salt Lake City, Utah, a location chillingly categorized as District 12 of the Hunger Games in the United States. The term soft files, a great way to hide all of this information on the public is to hide it right out in the open. And so you have Facebook and you have all of these social media sites where people willingly share all of their information. This is from the Devil's Dictionary. It is a multi-dimensional space into which targets are maneuvered in order for the overseers of that space to be able to eliminate or control such targets in some fashion. The dimensions of the kill box consist of 3D space, time, beliefs, values, resources, perception, and choice, while the dynamics which are used to induce people to enter the kill box space consist of propaganda, indoctrination, education, disinformation, misinformation, narratives, limited hangouts, ill advised public health policies, uh, iatrogenic activities, misdiagnosis, pharmaceutical toxicities, politics, sanctions, legal processes, myths, threats, fear, desire, hope, force, as well as classical and operant forms of conditioning. Very important definition.
Yeah, when you understand that everything's very organized and that these this organization structure for military, which is fighting battles, waging wars, fighting battles, going out on black operations at night, clandestine operations, Gladio, the army left behind, assassination teams, logistical teams, reconnaissance teams, surveillance teams, kill teams, laundry, weapon disposal, how to dispose of weapons so they'll never be ever accidentally introduced into a trial. You can introduce props not used in a murder. You are allowed to, under maritime law, you can put in props that resemble the weapon used, but you're
Mhm.
never allowed to actually have the weapon that was used, right?
Right.
Because it's professionally done away with. And you have the situation where then you understand how easy it is to do these crimes. The media's job is to make everything really complicated. And then we have actors like John Wayne and Ronald Reagan. Well, Ronald Reagan works for the United States Army, and he's an intelligence officer for Army Airborne, and he is contracted with Warner Brothers. So he is working as a military soldier and an actor. And he's doing education tutorial films for the military training films he's doing, as well as fictional battlefield movies. And so Ronald Reagan is really versatile. He is a military Army Airborne soldier, and he's an actor, and he's a tutorial, how do you do it, training video guy. Then he becomes the spokesperson for General Electric, which brings good things to life. Now, in the movie film Dr. Strangelove, which stars Peter Sellers, who plays 3 different characters, we have an example of a Hollywood actor who's also a United States Marine, and his name is Sterling Hayden, Sterling Walter Hayden. He's born in 1916, and he began as sailing his boat in and around New Jersey and in the East Coast, but then he moved on out to Hollywood in 1938. He's only 18 years old, and he starts working at Paramount Pictures at age 18. And, then he does his first Hollywood film called Virginia in 1941. But then we have the World War II. World War II happens whilst he is entering Hollywood. And they created a fake name for him called John Hamilton. But his name is, I just told you, his name is Sterling Hayden, right? Well, he ends up becoming the Air Force General Ripper, who sends the B-52 nuclear bombing wing to attack Russia, gives them the go code. And he's playing a mutually assured destruction military general who loses his marbles. And this is the Sterling Hayden character. But he's already received a Silver Star for gallantry in the United States Marines in the Balkans and in the Mediterranean. He is a decorated soldier who is now a Hollywood actor who is he's triggering the doomsday machine unwittingly, because he didn't know General Ripper didn't
What
know
was
there was a doomsday machine assuring
what was
mutual.
the name? I'll put the picture.
Okay, his name is Sterling Hayden, and there are many photographs of him, and before, during, and after. He died in Sausalito at age 70, which is close to this studio where I'm coming to you from. He is a fixture here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Sterling Hayden.
Topic that you brought up, it's called an ego death, and is very important, um, because once you have an ego death, or a death of your ego, what happens is that the person you were before actually dies, but you're still here. And so you have died, and you find out that you're still alive. And the reason that's the case is because you can't see things the same way anymore. The person you were before this can't exist anymore, because that person didn't have the ability to see. And now, after the death, after the ego death, you can see an extra layer parallel to reality. And that is what it means, eyes wide shut or one eye blind. That's what that means, is that is a type of infliction, actually, because you can't go back. Even if you want to, you can't go back.
It's called, in my world, you cannot unsee something that's really that dramatic. You'll never forget.
Hmm. I'll read this. This says an ego death or ego dissolution is a profound psychological and spiritual experience where one's sense of self, personal identity, and separation from the world temporarily or permanently dissolves, often feeling like a loss of I. It's described as merging with everything, leading to feelings of interconnectedness or a vast void, and can be induced by psychedelics, intense meditation, spiritual practices such as Buddhist or Sufi traditions, or traumatic events, sometimes resulting in deep transformation, but also disorientation or fear.
That's a theatrical presentation. It's not real. It's a sim. It's a metaverse. It's a sim. As Erin Valente said to her mother, her last words spoken, it's all a game. It's a thought experiment. We're in the Matrix. I understand that. I completely agree with Erin Valente. She spoke those words at 10 p.m. Pacific time, October 7th, 2019. October 7th, 2019, Erin Valente said, it's all a game. It's a thought experiment. We're in the Matrix. And then clicked off. And that was it. Then 5 days later, we find her dead body with her back facing the house at a 6615 Bowes Lane address, which is 666, the mark of the beast. But her back was turned to it, which means you invert it to a 999 meta dead. She is one block from the corner of Diablo Way and Bowes Lane, at the only home with solar panels on the roof and the only home with 5 bayonet NATO shaped diamond holes in the sidewalk where you could plant a flower or a little tree. That was, there were 5. She had 5 next to her Nissan Murano rent-a-car. And of course, I'd want to round up all of the executives at Hertz Rent-A-Car to explain to me and to Erin's father, Joseph, from Rochester, New York, how is it that I begged you to trace and track her rent-a-car for 5 days and you wouldn't do it? And it took a dog walker to call it into police that there's a dead body in a car at 6615 Bowes Lane. And it's a $55,000 car, brand new, and you can't find your own vehicle. And I know you have a GPS premium navigation system on that car, and you have at least 5 transponders on the frame joints of that car. But for some reason, you can't find my daughter who's dead in that car. So she's probably in a refrigerator and the car's parked in a garage. But
anyway. Well,